So you're thinking about making that move to Florida and you're considering Tampa or Jacksonville. Now, when most people think of Florida, they think about Miami, Palm Beach, Orlando. Jacksonville and Tampa, not so much. But recently in Forbes magazine, Best Places to Live in 2023, Tampa's #1 and Jacksonville's right up there next to it. So today I'm going to try to show the distinct differences between the two as objectively as possible. But full disclosure, I do live in a suburb of Jacksonville here in St. Johns County, so I do believe Jacksonville is the most underrated city in Florida. But my wife lived in Tampa for a good number of years before we were married, and she loved living there. So today, as I said, I'm going to show the distinct differences as objectively as possible so that whether you're a young professional, starting a family, or a retiree, that which city would be ideal for you. So let's get after it now. All right, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything about Jacksonville and the surrounding areas, make sure you subscribe and don't forget to tap the alerts bell if you haven't already so that you can be the first to know about what's going on here in the Jacksonville market. My name is Greg, and I get calls from people just like you every day. They're looking to make a move in the market, whether it's 9 days or 90 days or even 180 days. You can reach out, send me a text, shoot me an email, or give me a call. My information will be in the description below, and I'll try to help you make that decision or help you make the best smooth transition to the area. All right, so let's get into it. Today we're talking about the major differences between Tampa and Jacksonville. And just to start off with a little bit of fun, so these aren't monotonous, I decided to Google in my research, top newsworthiness of both cities. And what came up for Jacksonville was Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes calls Trevor Lawrence Waffle House celebration a baller move. So, of course, the win we can't forget about. Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville Jaguars, celebrated at Waffle House after the win against the San Diego Chargers for the AFC playoffs. And that is newsworthy stuff, people, and it's still carrying on even through to the Kansas City Chiefs loss. But again, pretty newsworthy and puts Jacksonville on the map. For Tampa Bay, Tom Brady's made a decision on next season, according to Buccaneers teammates, and they seem to think it won't be with Tampa Bay. And today's article, I read somewhere that Tom Brady said, "I'm effing sick and tired of being asked what I'm going to effing do with my career." So Tom Brady putting Tampa on the map, and all newsworthy stuff, of course. But if you're trying to make a move to one of these cities, this might be your way of deciding which one has a better NFL team or future. Not the best decision, but anyway, let's get back to being objective and start with the #1 distinction between the two cities, Tampa and Jacksonville. So let's get into it. #1. Okay, so the #1 difference between Jacksonville and Tampa is the most obvious, is the location and the geography. So Jacksonville, known as the gateway to Florida, is right up here in northeast Florida on the border of Georgia. It is on the Atlantic coast, and Tampa is down here in the central west section of Florida, all on the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the Gulf of Mexico has much more warm waters than the Atlantic Ocean. Therefore, it makes Tampa and the Tampa Bay area more susceptible to hurricanes. If you haven't already watched my video, Jacksonville, Florida hurricanes, do they get them? I go into detail about a study done by Universal Insurance Company discussing the most hurricane-prone areas in Florida. If that's not enough, if you go to bestplaces.net, they have an article discussing the worst places for hurricanes in the United States. And make note, 6 of the areas in the United States are in the state of Florida. Their list starts with Southeast Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. #2 is Key West and the Florida Keys. #3 is Southwest Florida, Fort Myers, the Naples area. And then #4 is West Florida, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, and Clearwater. The rest of the list does not include Northeast Florida or Jacksonville, just to make note of that. if hurricanes is not enough to worry about, there's something in the central Florida and the central west part of Florida called sinkholes. I'm not very familiar with them, but my wife has experienced them when she lived in Tampa. She lived in an area of Tampa in Pasco County, and there are three counties in Tampa area that is known as Sinkhole Alley, and that is Hernando County, Pasco County, and Hillsborough County. So if you are looking in those areas, just make note that sinkholes are prevalent in those areas. And my wife did experience a sinkhole, and the way she described it was basically a hole underneath the ground that eventually caved in. You can go to floridadepartment.gov and they have a sinkhole fact page, and it discusses more in depth what are sinkholes and what causes them. There's a lot of different variations of sinkholes and what causes them here in Florida. The general idea is that a lot of the land in Florida has sedimentary type stone or rock underneath. The most common is limestone, and when water seeps through the ground, it creates deterioration underneath the soil, creates a cavity, and eventually the surface sinks in and creates a hole. Again, if you're concerned about these things, if you're looking in a specific area in the Tampa area, I would suggest finding yourself a qualified real estate professional that's trustworthy, and if you don't have one, I'd be more than glad to refer you. And then more importantly, whether it's sinkholes, whether you're looking in an area that is prone to flooding, storms, or whatnot, contact a local insurance agent and they will let you know if you give them the address of the property, what areas are most liable for these natural disasters. Obviously, insurance companies would be your best resource, as they are the ones putting the money behind the property, and you better believe it, they're going to let you know by your premium if you're in an area that is prone to sinkholes or flooding or storm surges or whatnot. So make sure that you do that in your search for a property. So let's move on. Okay, so the number two main difference between Jacksonville and Tampa is simply the size. Now, Jacksonville, I will make note, is one of the largest cities land-wise in the United States. It's about 875 square miles compared to Tampa's 113 square miles. Jacksonville's city limits has a population of about 1 million, and the population in Tampa is just under 400,000. Jacksonville is comprised of 7 counties, while Tampa is only comprised of 4 counties. Jacksonville, you could say, is almost twice the size of Tampa, but unlike most cities, because Jacksonville is so large and spread out land-wise, the population density is not thick as most cities, making it more populated in the suburban areas. Okay, so the number 3 difference between Tampa and Jacksonville is the climate. In Jacksonville, because we're a little bit more north part of Florida, our summers and winters are a little bit more mild, so our summers are hot and our winters are cold. In Tampa, and we're more in the southern central section of Florida, they have a little bit more of a tropical climate, meaning their summers are hot and their winters are a little bit warmer. So if you have arthritis, you're probably going to be better off in Tampa, because we do have more of a change of seasons up in Jacksonville. If you prefer that, our winters can get down to the 30s, 20s in the morning and in the evening in the coldest months of winter, but during the daytime it's usually around 60s and 70s. Again, rule of thumb for me, what I tell folks is if you're in Florida, anything south of Orlando, you're going to be about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than Jacksonville, sitting in the furthest northeast section of Florida. Okay, so the number 4 difference between Tampa and Jacksonville is certainly the culture and lifestyle. So I'll start off with Jacksonville. If you haven't already watched my video, 5 Reasons Why I Moved My Family to Jacksonville, that will give you a great overview of the attractions of why we moved to the Jacksonville area. But really quick, again, because Jacksonville is in the northeast section of Florida bordering Georgia, it certainly is it has a very big social southern influence, if you will. As they say in Florida, the more north you go, the more southern it gets, and that holds true for Jacksonville. Also in Jacksonville, a big influence in our culture is the fact that, according to military.com, we have the 3rd largest military presence in the United States. And so it is also noted that 90,000 of our population is employed by the military here in Jacksonville. So that is a great influence on our culture, I think. And so it certainly affects the culture and the lifestyle here in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a very great place for beaches and outdoor activities. I will note the beaches are probably not as nice as the Tampa Bay area, like Clearwater, but they do have really nice beaches. And even more so, Jacksonville has 80,000 acres of preserved parks and land. And there are multiple national parks and state parks located in Jacksonville and around the area. So if you are big into hiking and camping and outdoor activities, Jacksonville is definitely the place for you. So again, Jacksonville has more of that southern culture. And one thing I will say in Jacksonville, if you look at Michelin Guide restaurants, we do not have, if you're a foodie, we do not have the high-end restaurants that are famous attraction, because we're not a major tourist destination. We're not even a seasonal destination as Tampa is. So we do have St. Augustine, which is south of Jacksonville. We do have some good restaurants, but if you're a foodie and you're looking for that high-end gastronomic experience, Jacksonville is not the place. I would say if you're a young professional and you're interested in a more heavy nightlife, definitely Tampa Bay will take the cake on that one. We do have some pretty cool areas near downtown by the river that you can go and enjoy and have some sort of social life, as well as Jack's Beach. Certainly a lot of people like to go down to St. Augustine since they are part of our municipality. It's a big tourist attraction down there. So that has a lot of good restaurants and nightlife. And a little bit more touristy. But again, if you compare Jacksonville to Tampa, we're not, our main industry isn't tourism like Tampa, but let me go over some of the cool things that do exist in Tampa, if that's more of your interest. I think if you're raising a family, and potentially if you're a retiree, Jacksonville would be a little more preferential, since we do have the best public school systems in the state of Florida. Not to say that they're not great schools in Tampa, but we are certainly ranked as a top. And I'll get into that a little bit more as well. But let's talk a little bit more about Tampa's lifestyle and culture in comparison. All right, so I'm back into my computer because, like I said before, in full disclosure, I've never lived in the Tampa or Tampa Bay area, but my wife has. But I certainly wanted to do it justice because Tampa is certainly a happening place. And I thought to myself, what better thing to do than to check out the top attractions on TripAdvisor for Tampa, and that way I can kind of compare back to my experience of living here in Jacksonville, because I do want to do it justice and have a little bit of fun with this and be completely transparent. I did read a lot about Tampa, and I did find out it has, in Jacksonville, I said we have a southern influence. In Tampa, there certainly is Cuban influence, because I believe Ybor City was founded by cigar makers, Cuban cigar makers, and it's a very historic place. So it gives Tampa a Latin flair for sure. So you would think Jacksonville is more southern kind of vibe, and Tampa's got a little bit more of a Latin flavor. But certainly there are a ton more to do as far as if you are into social attractions, if you will, because again, it's important to note that Tampa, one of their main industry is tourism, and because it has a warmer climate than Jacksonville, I'll start off just to say the beaches are certainly popular on the Gulf Coast in general in Florida. They have much whiter sand, much bluer water, especially up here in Northeast Florida. We don't have as blue waters as South Florida or the Gulf, depending on what time of year it is. But they have some of the most beautiful beaches in Clearwater for sure. But again, in Tampa, just going off this list, Busch Gardens is really famous if you love, theme parks with roller coasters and whatnot. Busch Gardens is a huge attraction in Tampa. The Florida Aquarium, we did do that when we visited with my family. We do not have an aquarium here in Jacksonville. I don't know anything about this bridge, but clearly it's a top attraction. The zoo in Tampa at Lowry Park. We do have an awesome zoo in Jacksonville as well. Big Cat Rescue, we have something similar like that in Jacksonville as well. We do not have the Tampa River Walk, and I think that is another big tourist attraction and also adds to the nightlife. I want to add that, my wife said, hey, you have to talk about Gasparilla, which is a popular city parade they have starting in the Tampa River Walk. I looked it up, and it's actually happening this weekend, I believe. But it's the Gasparilla Pirate Fest, and it's a huge celebration in Tampa, and it starts in the River Walk, and they have pirate ships on the river. They have floats and food and drinks and everything, and it's huge. So I'm like, how cool is this? This is created 100 years ago as a tourist attraction, and it's become a huge party, as you can see here. It's all the way through here on the Hillsborough Bay. So a huge event, really popular, and it looks like a lot of fun. I've actually never attended it, but it is one of the big draws to the Tampa area. So certainly in Riverwalk, great area for going to the restaurants and the museums. We do have some good museums in Jacksonville as well, but we really don't have this type of river walk with scenic walking areas and restaurants and whatnot. In comparison, we do not have that here in Jacksonville. The other thing they have is they have more professional sports teams in Tampa Bay than we do. We have the Jags, which are a lot of fun to go to, the Jags games. But they have a professional hockey team, Tampa Bay Lightning, so that's a pretty fun thing to do. Lettuce Lake Regional Park. That's a nice little park area. I don't know anything about it. Here's Ybor City, as I was talking about. Ybor City has a lot of history and a lot of restaurants, and then I also do recall they have a huge nightlight, and you can go out there pretty late. So if you like to party and you're young, that's one thing about Tampa. I think there's more opportunities there than we have in the Jacksonville area. Just depends on what part of your life you're at. Bayshore Boulevard, hiking trails, the museum, we have that. The Tampa Theater, we have an awesome Jacksonville Theater in downtown as well. Streetcar system, we don't have anything similar to that I know of. In Ybor, it's located. We don't have that, again, because Tampa has more of a touristy industry vibe. It would have provisions of that. Another thing we don't have is we don't have a professional baseball team like Tampa does. We have they have Yankee spring training also there, so you'll see a lot of the Yankees training in the spring in Tampa area. So that's another aspect. If you're into professional sports, there's certainly a lot more opportunities in Tampa than in Jacksonville. And Cigar City Brewing, Yingling Brewery. So again, we have a lot of breweries, and we have brewery tours in downtown Jacksonville. But again, I think Tampa, in the Tampa Bay area, probably has a much more extensive nightlife than Jacksonville. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Jacksonville doesn't have a big foodie scene, and if I looked at the Michelin Guide here, there's 19 restaurants in Tampa that are on the Michelin Guide list. If you put Jacksonville in, as you can see here, Jacksonville, Florida, we have none that come up. So also, just to show what the 15 top attractions are on TripAdvisor for Jacksonville, again, we have the Caddyshack Ranch Wildlife Sanctuary, we have a lot of museums, arts and gardens, we have the Jacksonville Zoo, as I mentioned, which is pretty awesome. And then again, because I mentioned before, we have so much preserved lands and state parks. You'll see a lot of the attractions are, the Island State Park, the Kingsley Plantation, the Big Talbot Island State Park, the Catherine Abbey Hanna Park, the St. John's Town Center. I mean, I really wouldn't compare that to a big nightlife scene or anything really impressive or out of this world. It's actually very crowded down there, and there's some good restaurants, but again, not in comparison to Tampa Bay. Like I said, we do have the Florida Theater, which is a pretty cool historic theater downtown. My daughter actually got to perform there for a dance, and it was pretty cool. Riverside Arts Market, again, really organic stuff. Atlantic Beach is pretty cool, but again, very small attraction here. So not a ton to offer in Jacksonville as far as top attractions. Again, it's more the outdoorsy park thing, not a huge nightlife place. We do have the Jags, but that's pretty much in a nutshell the comparison. So if you're a young professional, you're single, and you want to go out and mingle, I would say probably Tampa Bay or Tampa, or in the Tampa area, is more definitely going to be more preferential for you there. So let's move on to the next one. All right, so number 5, the big difference between the Jacksonville area and the Tampa area, and that is schools, public schools. In Jacksonville, we are certainly known for having the top school districts, counties in the surrounding areas of Jacksonville, because downtown Jacksonville is Duval County, and they do not have the best public school system at all. But just a suburb area just south of Duval is St. Johns County, and St. Johns County is ranked the #1 best public school district in the state of Florida, and is one of the reasons why we moved here. My daughters go to public school here, and it is fantastic. So I decided to compare it to the Tampa area and see what is available in the Tampa area, and the #1 public school district in Tampa is Pinellas County Schools. So I decided to take a look at that as well. In Pinellas County, looks like it's in the Clearwater, St. Petersburg area. So they do have schools, good schools in that county. In the Tampa area, it's ranked number 14. So of course, St. Johns County is #1. And the top school district for Tampa area is number 14. I also will mention that Clay County is also in the Jacksonville area, is ranked number 5 as well. So we certainly have better public school systems up here in comparison to Tampa area, but who's not to say there's fantastic private schools there as well and other options. But if that is something that's really important to you, it certainly draws a lot of families and people to the area, because let's face it, good schooling sells homes. It's one of the top reasons why people move to an area. So, all right, we don't need to spend too much time on that. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so if you're still with me, we're at number 6, the final point, the key difference between Tampa and Jacksonville. And this one is just talking about jobs and economy. And I would say, again, as I started off at the beginning of this whole video, I think Jacksonville is one of the most underrated cities in Florida. But I also think Tampa is as well. And Tampa was number 1 on the Forbes article as best places to live. And I think because both of these places offer a ton of opportunities when it comes to jobs. From my experience just being here in Jacksonville and getting the calls, a lot of my calls, especially in this real estate market, has been about relocations and job opportunities. Basically instability throughout the country in different markets. In the migration of Florida, people are looking for more job stability and finally had it from wherever they are living, and they move here. And so some of the big jobs or industries I'm seeing is, first and foremost, is our medical field here is huge. We have Mayo Clinic, which is one of the top research and hospitals and clinics here in the U.S. I think they have 3 locations, and one of their biggest locations is here. We have Baptist Health, we have UF, we have Ascension St. Vincent. So we have a ton of hospitals. And it's another reason why retirees may consider living here, because there's so many options for healthcare here that it's incredible. And so another big thing about Jacksonville that people need to realize, being a big port town, we have I think the second largest port on the East Coast. We have a lot of distribution that comes out of Jacksonville between shipping and rail. We are probably one of the largest distribution areas. Amazon has one of their, I think, the second largest DC here in the Jacksonville area. So logistics is certainly one of the top industries as well here. And then finally, of course, banking is huge here, finance and banking, with a lot of the larger banks having headquarters here in Jacksonville. And then I have neighbors that work at Johnson & Johnson that employ about 3,000 employees here. We have the PGA opened up a brand new office here in Ponte Vedra. We have so much different industries here that the military, of course, being another big employer, that there's a lot of opportunity here. I do believe, though, in Tampa, I hear a lot about the tech there. My wife works for a tech company, and that's why she lived in the Tampa area. So I know tech is a huge industry as well there, and also finance, legal, consulting. So both of these cities are vibrant with job opportunities. I think that's why Forbes has them at the top of the list. So whatever your field is, I guess it would be your best interest to be lured here by a job in the first place, I would think. And also consider the fact that Tampa has also a big tourism industry. So if you're in the hospitality and tourism industry, certainly is a lot of opportunity there. I think both cities, or development is bustling. So if you're in any form of development and in construction or whatnot, there's going to be opportunities for you in both those areas as well. We just don't have enough tradesmen. So great cities for anyone looking to find job stability, and unemployment is under the national average. I know for sure here in Jacksonville. I believe it was the same in Tampa. So a great opportunity again, economically. I feel like both these cities have such an amazing future moving forward. I think there's just so much to tap into as far as opportunity, entrepreneurship. It's just thriving in both these places. So let's conclude this video. All right, so we're wrapping up this video. I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. I really hope I did it justice as far as comparing Jacksonville to Tampa. I certainly think this really is dependent on where you are in your life and what you're looking for. Ideally, both cities offer an amazing life for anyone here in Florida. That's why they're at the top of the list, like I said on the Forbes article. It just depends on where you are in your life and what's really important to you. And I hope I outlined all the qualities of these cities that would help you make that decision. So if you are coming to the Jacksonville area, I'd love to be your resource of choice. Again, my information will be in the description below. You can shoot me a text, an email, or give me a call, and I'll be more than glad to guide you as best as I can. And then, of course, if you're also interested in visiting the Tampa area, which I always recommend, if you're considering either or, that you should do both, and you need a referral for a qualified real estate professional over there to be your guide, hit me up for that as well. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to check out my video, 5 reasons why I moved my family to Jacksonville area. Also check out my video on hurricanes in Florida. I'll put those both on the next link here. So check them out, and we'll see you in the next video.